I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption. Hey everyone, Mike Uyak here. Happy Friday. And welcome to Snowmageddon 2019. We're having several days of snow in a row, and people here in the Seattle area have lost their minds. We don't get a whole lot of snow around here, not appreciable. You know, usually, most years we'll get 1 or 2 inches for the entire winter. And you know, it's a sprinkling here, a sprinkling there, maybe a half an inch, just enough to coat the ground if it even sticks, and then in a day or two it's gone. And so yeah, there's a little bit of slippy slidey. You know, there's an increase in traffic accidents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's nothing. Most years it doesn't close schools down, it doesn't close businesses down. But about every 6-7 years, it just shuts everything down. Folks from the Midwest are probably think that it shuts everything down for no reason whatsoever. They may or may not be right, but you know, it could be argued either way. We have lots of hills, and you know, even just a little bit of loss of traction makes some of these hills completely impassable. So anyway, but with the forecast of anywhere between 2 and 12 inches of snow this weekend, people are going crazy and like, oh my God, there's going to be pandemonium. You know, basic services are going to be unavailable for weeks, and it's going to be like a major disaster. There are actually some cities and municipalities in this region that are declaring a state of emergency before the storm even hits. Whether that's a good idea or not, I'm not going to say. But in any case, at the moment at least, I'm nice and warm and safe and protected here, so I can continue making videos. And I'm feeling a little peckish. So it's time for some snacks. Various sources, a couple different sources. The internet is always a wonderful source of wonderment and or horror. And also my local Asian grocery store. I've been trying to get out to other ethnic grocery stores, and I've been exploring. I haven't actually had a chance to make any videos of them yet because I'm still kind of exploring and researching. But since Lunar New Year just passed, and I had stopped by my local Asian grocery store to pick up the makings for a dim sum dinner for myself and my wife Chris. And while I was there, of course, I had to pick up some snacks, and I'm here to share them with you. But first is something I got off the internet that I've been curious about, and it is edible weaver ants. Yeah, they're ants. These have been basically, I don't know if dry roasted is the right term. I think they've been dried, maybe toasted would be the way to put it. So they're not really cooked in the sense of being like fried or something like that, but a lot of times, especially now that entomophagy is becoming a little bit more mainstream, they actually have microwave desiccators. So in a way, yes, they're being cooked, but it's to the point where they're blasted with microwaves, causes all of the moisture in their little bodies to boil off, and so they are now dried. So they say they're microwave desiccated, even though they've had all the water boiled out, so they're kind of cooked. And they're not flavored in any way. There's no salt, there's no artificial flavorings or anything like that. Ooh, and you can tell, because it has kind of a funky pet store sort of aroma to them. So I'm just gonna take a pinch of these. Attempt to take a pinch of these. Okay, see what they taste like. And they taste like not much. So, along with the aroma, you have the flavor of the chitin, of their exoskeletons, and the crunchiness from it, obviously. And that flavor kind of, because they're arthropods, sort of gives you a sort of a hint of shellfish, but not really. The abdomens, like I said, are really where the flavor is, and there's sort of a sourness to them, which makes me think of the formic acid that a lot of ants have as a defense mechanism. They're able to actually either with their bite, they actually sort of squirt a little bit of formic acid into the wound, and that stings, or you know, they actually like have it so that it gets into the mouth of the predator and it stings. So there's that sort of sourness, that sort of acidity. You can sort of imagine that it's kind of like a lime flavor, but because these are completely unflavored, unseasoned, it's really very subtle, and really what comes through is the chitiny. The off-putting part is all the legs and wings and things. Ends up being a lot of little gritty bits that kind of get stuck in your throat. Pardon me a moment. I have kind of a strong gag reflex, and so that really makes me want to gag with all the little bits. The flavor isn't bad. I'm not put off by the idea of eating bugs, but all the little bits, all the little gritty bits getting stuck in the back of my throat, just So that's one of the issues with entomophagy that they have to get over, is the palatability thing. They'll only get more affordable when they become in greater demand than they are. It's sort of that bell curve of supply and demand. When you have ample supply but no demand, it becomes a specialty novelty item, and you end up spending a lot. This is only a couple of bucks, $3, I think, for, you know, an ounce, and it's a very small amount. It's not even really what I would consider a snack in terms of volume. This obviously wouldn't satisfy me if I was actually hungry. But I don't want any more. So that sort of works too. It's like, yeah, this is all you're ever going to want. So palatability is something they have to get over, which is why a lot of times the companies that are doing edible crickets, they're doing cricket flour. They're actually taking them, microwave desiccating them, and then grinding them into a fine flour. I'm not sure if they actually mix it with wheat flour or if they just leave it the way it is, but it's a fine meal. It gets around the ick factor because you can't tell. There's no visible body parts. It's all just a fine meal, a fine powder that you can mix into baked goods and things like that. And then because you're mixing it into other things, you don't get that chitiny flavor predominantly. There's other flavors involved, and so it sort of covers that up. But here, especially with the legs and things, that's not very appealing. And so they need to find something to do with this to kick it up, make them more palatable, so that they'll be more popular. They'll sell more, and then the price will actually go down for a little bit until such time that demand exceeds supply. Then the prices will go up again. But you know, enough of economics. Let's move on. I want to get the taste of that out of my mouth. Next, I have Tau Koi Noi, K-Noi, sorry. Crispy seaweed snack. It's seaweed. And a lot of other stuff. And it's Peking duck flavored. We'll see. So, it's like nori, and that I don't think they just took big strips of seaweed right off the beach and washed them and said ta-da. It's processed and then dried into these dark little strips, and in this case seasoned. Okay, there it is. Takes a little while, so you can taste a little bit of salt right off the top. Seaweed is a fairly strong flavor. It has kind of a strong iodine-y flavor. It tastes very green. So it's the predominant flavor, and it's going to be the predominant flavor unless you just overpower it with seasoning. They don't actually use duck in this, but all the seasonings that would go on the Peking duck. You know, you have the anise sort of flavor from the Chinese 5-spice, and a little bit of white pepper in there, a little bit of cinnamon. This has supposedly clove, Szechuan pepper. Oh, an artificial duck flavor, so there is actual duck flavor, not just the seasonings, but yeah, not much. Still predominantly seaweed, and it's a relatively innocuous snack. There's not much here. So it's not filling. It's just something that's kind of crispy, kind of salty, so like chips. And nutritional. I never really, when I have a snack, I never worry about the nutritional breakdown because it's a snack. If you were really worried about counting calories, you wouldn't snack. I like this. Serving size 1 pack. 2 servings per container. But they're loosely contained. So, okay. Anyway, 110 calories per serving. I don't know if that's this entire bag or half of it, but whatever. 9 grams of fat. Oh, palm oil. That's what they use to crisp this up and get it to stick together and everything. It's actually surprisingly low in sodium. It's 85 milligrams and 3 grams of carbs. 2 of fiber, so that's all the seaweed. There's a little bit of sugar and whatnot, but not bad. Not particularly satisfying though. Let's move on. This one's weird. Took me a bit because I don't actually read any of the script on here. But it's konjac, spicy flavored konjac. Konjac, pardon me, I need to wash that down again. Getting a lot of snacks that leave stuff stuck to the back of my throat. Konjac is a species of Japanese yam, and what they end up doing with it is they make these individually wrapped packages. You can make basically kind of like a pasta with it. The starches, and it turns into this sort of translucent, sort of milky white noodle. Well, sheet really that you can cut it. They cut into various sizes of noodles, everything from vermicelli to linguine style. They actually, I've seen some that they just sell them in sheets, And the benefit to it, it's a very, very neutral flavor. It doesn't really taste like a whole lot once they've done processing it through and everything. But as it turns out, the starches are very, very complex. And so your body has to work very hard to digest it. So it has a very very low carb profile. It has a high glycemic index. So for people who are on a low carb diet, it's actually a good option as far as replacing pasta. Okay, so they cut them into little noodles, and this is kind of immersed in a chili sauce, but it doesn't really. They're really tiny pieces of basically noodles, and it's spicy flavor. So that konjac powder, soybean oil, potato starch, sugar and spices, star anise and fennel. I get the feeling that there's something missing from this description. Salt, sugar, anise, fennel, MSG, disodium 5-ribonucleotide. No idea. Citric acid. Nothing in there is specifically spicy, but this is this is actually quite spicy. I'm kind of wondering if something's missing from that ingredient list. But I suppose the way you're supposed to, because this is a snack pack, it comes in these individually wrapped packages. So I'm assuming you take this with you. But do you actually have something to eat this with, or are you just supposed to squeeze it out like Go-Gurt? They kind of show it skewered. They look like gummy worms, and they show them skewered, but it does not come that way. And I don't think you could eat it that way. Get a whole mouthful of them. You get a little of the star anise. It's quite spicy, but not a whole lot of other flavor. I don't know if I'm going to be eating much of that. Hot coffee helps. Not at all. Next one, I'm sort of looking forward to and dreading. This might have been a mistake. Okay, it's the Shili Stinky Tofu. Certain parts of China, Stinky Tofu is a prized delicacy, and or hated and reviled. And there are whole restaurants that are dedicated to dishes using Stinky Tofu. And tofu is fermented soybean, as you know. But Stinky Tofu, they let it go a little while, and there's a slightly different process, so that you get this sort of gelatinous product that is, as the name implies, quite stinky. It has that sort of funky, fetid, sort of stinky, runny cheese aroma to it, and a fairly acrid flavor. I'm going to try and squeeze this out of the packaging to give you a look at it. And again, this, I just happened to pick spicy flavor. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, stinky cheese, sweat sock, slightly spoiled meat, that sort of aroma. Again, delicacy sometimes means acquired taste, and or possibly sort of joke food that they call a delicacy to try and convince tourists to eat it. But there are apparently a certain percentage of the population that view this as a delicacy. It's a special treat, and we'll see. Whew, wow. You almost forget that it's tofu, but it's actually pretty dry. This snack, anyway. Stinky tofu, when you actually get it in like a restaurant or something, it's softer. In fact, it tends to be like a softer silken tofu. It tends to be kind of runny, so it's almost like it really is kind of like a runny cheese, but with that sort of soy undercurrent to it. Sort of a grainy, meaty texture. If you've ever had a type of jerky, jerky-like product where it's actually chopped up meat, marinated chopped up meat, that's then been sort of pressed into whatever shape and dried so that it sticks together, it's kind of like that. It's meaty. It has a certain resistance to it, like you're eating a piece of meat, but it eventually, once you chew it, it falls apart into these sort of slightly grainy chunks. Overall spicy, because that's what I got, but the stinky tofu, now I don't know if because it's a little drier and it's been made into a snack food and seasoned, if I'm not getting the full funk. I'm sure I'm not getting the full funk of real stinky tofu, but it's not bad. But yes, the odor, if you actually hold it up to your nose, the odor does take a little getting used to. Now, the last thing that I wanted to try, freeze-dried durian. Now, durian is sort of infamous, and I'm probably going to be doing a Market of Mystery video solely on durian because it's a misunderstood fruit. Mostly Southeast Asian fruit. Big spiky exterior, revealing these lobes of almost custard-like fruit on the inside. You can actually just cut one in half and eat the insides with a spoon. When it's ripe, it's really soft and it really is custardy. And a lot of people love it. It has a lot of devotees around the world, but it smells really bad. Some people, I think the description that I got was if you took a wheel of a really stinky, runny cheese and you wrapped it in the arms of a corpse, dropped it into a grave, crapped on it, buried it for 6 months, then dug it up and ate it. That's the smell of durian. I've had it fresh. I don't think it's quite that bad. It is pungent, but it's not quite that bad. But it does have a funkiness to it. Again, sort of like a ripe cheese. I can sort of see where some people would say it has sort of a weird fecal smell, but also fruity because it is still a fruit. So there is a fruity component to it, and that kind of really turns people off. Freeze dried. not nearly as funky. It kind of, right now in this state, it smells sort of like an there's a little bit of a citrus, but it's like an overripe banana with a little bit of citrus added. But otherwise not that bad. Now, obviously this is not going to be custardy, but okay. You know, freeze-dried has the texture of kind of a meringue cookie. But it's not entirely pleasant, because once it gets moistened in your mouth, it forms this very sticky paste that just sticks in your teeth. Flavor-wise, as it hydrates in your mouth, you get a little bit more of that funkiness. A little bit of the still overripe banana with a little bit of almost kind of a pineapple flavor, but not quite as acidic. The flavor is kind of, it's unctuous and kind of rich, which is why a lot of people like it, especially fresh, because it is like a custard. It's like you're eating sort of this fruity pudding. Not my favorite thing, because I don't really like, meringue cookies or things like that. It starts off kind of chalky and then becomes this sticky goo in your mouth. Not 100% sure I like that, but but it's not horrible. I much prefer the fresh durian and just eat it outside, because you deal with the smell. In fact, in places like Singapore, it is actually against the law to take a fresh durian onto public transportation. It's something like a $500 fine, because it's so bad. You're basically torturing your fellow passengers. So, well, edible. So, I think crispy seaweed is the only one that I really actually like, and it's only because of its inoffensiveness. It doesn't really taste like Peking duck. It tastes like seaweed with some spices on it, but it's tasty. It just doesn't really taste like what it's supposed to be. The konjac isn't bad, but it's just all you taste is the spice, whatever they use to make it spicy, since they didn't bother listing it. Although there is a tiny little, what looks like a chopped up piece of chili on the illustration. If you could see right there, tiny piece of chili. So even though it's not actually listed on the ingredients, we're going to say that it's, I don't know if that's a Szechuan pepper. No, it's not. That is some sort of actual pepper, chili pepper. But anyway, that's all you can taste on these, because konjac doesn't really taste like much on its own. Stinky tofu and the durian, I'll set those aside and save them for when I'm really desperate, but I think I'll eat the seaweed and the konjac. And the weaver ants are going to be a gag thing that I'm going to have on the side, just to make people wonder about me. So, not the most rewarding trip through the snack aisle, but I've tried some things I haven't tried before. So, yay. that's still a check in that box. That freeze-dried durian really sticks to your teeth. So you'll pardon me if I'm sitting here and trying to clean my teeth. So with that, I once again encourage you to go out and explore your local ethnic markets and just all the aisles that you don't go down in your grocery store, and just try things. You might not like them, but you might like them. Like these. I'm going to have some more of these. So until next time, I'm Mike Uyak, and thanks for watching Recipe Redemption.